Well, today we're going to talk about a bit of an interesting subject, which is paying yourself. What is the best way to pay yourself to pay the least amount of taxes and still make sure you're paying yourself a fair wage? Before we get started, make sure you click on the subscribe button. And if you're on YouTube, click on the alert notification so you can be notified when we post new videos. If you're thinking about one of the most regressive taxes we have in this country, they are payroll taxes. And what I mean by regressive is everyone, regardless of income, pays on the first dollar they earn, they're paying payroll taxes. And in this country, they're about 8% apiece, 7, 8%, depending on what state you're in, et cetera. So here is the key. The company pays half, and you as an individual pay half. Now, as a business owner, you've got to start to think of yourself, unfortunately, a little bit in a bit of a bipolar state. You've got to kind of think of yourself on the one hand as an employee, and on the other hand as an owner. And why are these two different? Well, they're wildly different. And a worker is paid to do work and get a great job done. And the more that they do a great job, the more they're paid. An owner is paid to take risk. That's all they're paid to do. They're just paid to take risk. They're not paid to actually go to work. If you go buy Microsoft stock tomorrow, nobody's going to make you come in to work and start doing programming. They're not going to ask you to come in and do HR. They're not going to ask you to come in and do sales and marketing. What they're going to say is you're taking a risk with this stock, whether it's going to go up or down. That is the risk that you take as an owner. As an employee, if they're asking you to come in and program things or do HR or sales and marketing, they're going to pay you a salary for that. So it's very important that you segregate yourself and think of yourself in two separate seats. As a business owner, you are both a worker and an employee. And in fact, the IRS sees you the same way. Because the best way you could possibly pay yourself, remember we talked about regressive taxes, the best way you could pay yourself is not to pay yourself at all. And instead, if you're in an S Corp or an LLC, just take profit distributions. Why? Because profit distributions have zero payroll taxes associated with them. Why? Because they're a return of capital for an owner who took risk. Now, the IRS knows this. And so they make sure that you do actually have to, if you're working in the business, you have to pay yourself some sort of what they call reasonable salary. So what is a reasonable salary? How is that dictated? A lot of this is a conversation that you should have with your CPA because you want to pay yourself the least amount possible because that's going to mean the least payroll taxes possible, while at the same time paying yourself something reasonable for the business you're in. If you're in a startup that's losing money, your reasonable pay might be $1. If you were in a company making 20 million in profits, your reasonable pay might be $300,000 a year. Somewhere in between $1 and $300,000 is the appropriate amount, but you always want to be thinking, how can I reduce my salary to a reasonable number so I pay the least in payroll taxes legally allowable and yet still have to pay myself something for the work that I'm doing? Because as an owner, your only job is to take a risk. And as your employee, your only job is to do the work. And those are two very different things, and they result in different types of pay. So sometimes you'll want to stitch yourself up with distributions. In fact, that's your preferable way to do it, but you are required as an employee or active participant in the business to in fact pay yourself a reasonable salary.